I'm going to talk today about how to stick with your diet and not cheat. It was really a challenge for me, and I love helping other, especially women over 50 and 60, figure this out. But I hope everyone can benefit from the ideas that I'm going to share here. How can you stick with your diet and not cheat? So the purpose of this is I feel people end up feeling very ashamed of themselves and very stuck. Like I've made all kinds of intentions to change this and I just don't get any breakthroughs. And they end up feeling like I just need to give up, right? And so I really want you to see you do not have to give up. Healthy eating is really, really important. It's probably the most basic of the basics that creates this huge domino effect of positive, of beneficial effects in your life. I see this every day with the people that I work with. So let's talk about what is going on. Why do we have so much time sticking with a diet? So one thing is researchers find that sustainable weight loss from dieting is very rare. So depending on which studies you look at, when people look at, well, how many diets, how many weight loss diets produce results that you can still find 2 years later, the results are terrible, like really low success rate. The odds are really against us big time. So we end up feeling like there's something wrong with me. I just need more discipline. I just need more willpower. I just need to try harder, or I need to give up. And I sort of found myself in that situation, like maybe at this age, there's nothing I can do about it. I just have to give up. So I want to tell you what we've discovered is there's several mindsets that are really important for us to be able to stick with any kind of new habit. And we can make those mindsets come about. We can change our mindsets, not by just saying, stop it, right? But we can change our mindset. So I'm going to talk to you about the 3 mindsets that we've found make a difference and how you can change them. And I'm going to talk about one practical tool that's really important, that without that, it's, no matter where your mindset's at, you're not probably going to get great results. So let me tell you the 3 mindsets. So anytime you're going to do some kind of change to achieve in your habits, to achieve some kind of results, there are 3 mindsets that make it possible for you to stick with what you're doing, right? So have you noticed mindsets that keep you from continuing? Like, this isn't going to work anyway, right? I don't think this is going to work anyway. I felt that way about dieting, which is kind of true. If you're using the wrong eating approach, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're probably not going to get these lasting great results. So the first one is this can work. I believe this can work. That's what I believe. And I need to believe that to be able to even continue. So if you're having trouble sticking with the diet, check if you believe that. What's the proof this can work? I'm going to talk to you about how big a deal that became for me and how figuring that out changed everything. The second belief is it can be done. So not only can this healthy eating approach work as far as producing the results I want for my health, for my blood sugar, my blood pressure, my weight, etc., but people can eat this way. It can be done, right? And the third belief is not only can it be done, I can do it. I can do this. That makes sense? We're not going to stick with something if we feel like I can't do it. And some of us have a really bad habit of and we just were talking about this in one of our meetings yesterday in the Slender for Good community. Like as soon as we start telling ourselves, I can't do it, it takes all the energy away from sticking with the plan. So does this make sense? We're going to work on how do I get all these mindsets lined up to be able to stick with my new habit. My habit lately is since the pandemic, I've been figuring out how to get exercise back in my life. And it's so easy to just say, I'm going to start exercising and not, right? So I needed to look at these. Well, can it be done, right? Can I do it? What's it going to take for me to do it? I'm pretty excited about getting started exercising again. Not something that it's smart to fall out of, right? In any case, it happened. I fell out of exercise and now I really want to get back. But we're talking about healthy eating and how do we get the mindset of, first of all, this can work, this will work. So I think about certain diet books that I read and articles that I read that explained this works because of this. It gave some kind of scientific explanation, and I would feel persuaded. Oh, that makes sense. It's going to put my body into ketogenesis, or fasting works because it changes how your insulin functions. That makes sense. So that might be something that will help me get started with an eating approach. So I read a book that says it works. Maybe somebody told you, somebody you saw in your life lost some weight, and they told you, this is how I did it. And so this anecdotal kind of support. Okay, so I think this will work because I saw it work for this other person, right? By the way, I think it really matters to look for people who not only lost weight, but kept weight off for more than 2 years. Getting temporary weight loss, not really what I'm interested in. It's very hard to stick with something that gives you initial weight loss, but then the weight starts coming back. And there's a lot of reasons why that happens to us. So another thing you might do is reflect on a past experience where something seemed to work for you, right? So I know for me, I'm just going to eat less and exercise more. This is what the doctors say. This is at some level what most of the articles in the book say. And it worked for me in the past. So you're trying to get to this can or this will work. Now, figuring out what's truly effective, producing predictable and reliable results, this is a special area of interest and expertise for me. So at some point I got really clear. I'm thinking I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to read another book, I'm going to read another article. I have to realize I'm not super clear exactly what works for health and sustainable weight loss. And so because I have this background in evidence-based practices as a researcher, once I got that issue clear, I realized what I had to do. So I went directly to the research and I searched for a preponderance of evidence from a lot of different kinds of studies over a lot of different populations showing certain key principles for how to eat to get the results I wanted, right? I wanted to see if I could reverse prediabetes. I wanted to see if I could improve my sleep and my hormone symptoms. And I wanted to get better energy and better mental focus. And I wanted to lose weight in a way that would last. I didn't want to diet the rest of my life, right? So I knew once I got really clear what I was looking for, I was able to find really clear principles in the research that predictably and reliably produce these kinds of results for women over 50. And it totally worked once I took that approach. It's a very, very happy circumstance. All those things turned around. I also didn't even think about that it could completely change issues of pain and inflammation throughout my system. So many risk factors that just really went away, right? So how do we get to the mindset of this can work? I think it's important to look for something that can work, that has been proven to work for sustainable weight loss for women over 50. There's not very much out there. So that's one of the first things I teach Slender for Good clients is you need an eating approach that is proven to work. And that makes it a lot easier to stick with it. Now, the second mindset, it can be done. It is possible for someone to eat this way, right? So let's get very clear what we're asking. See if we can get to the answer of absolutely, this can be done. There's no reason it couldn't be done. First, get your question really clear. We're asking, can a person eat this way long term to get sustainable results, right? Anyone can do a diet, a restrictive diet for a few days or even a few weeks if they're devoted, right? But can it be done long term? Is it possible? Is it doable? So one question might be, okay, if once I discovered, boy, people need to be eating a lot more fruits and vegetables than they are, like real whole fruits and vegetables. Well, are those available to me? Are those accessible? These are issues of feasibility for eating this way, right? So in fact, when I decided I'm going to move to Mexico, one thing I discovered is although you can get fruit at the beach, fresh vegetables are not that easy to get close to the ocean. It's more likely to be more in the center, in the farmland parts of the country. So I picked a place more in the center of the country. So what I discovered produces predictable, sustainable weight loss results is it can be summarized at a very high level as eating abundant, highly nutritious foods. And getting really clear what that means was life-changing. But the question of is it possible is easily answered with a yes. I'm not saying there aren't some people who struggle with it. I had a client living in Alaska. Finding fresh fruits and vegetables year round is not the easiest thing in Alaska. That's the mindset of can it be done? But now let's talk about the mindset. How do I get to the mindset of I can do it? So the first thing is you really need to let yourself off the hook for any past failures. I felt so ashamed of feeling like I don't know how my weight just keeps going up and going up and going up. It shouldn't be like this. I was always somebody who could stay slender, making myself feel terrible. Like, what's wrong with you? You should be able to do better than this. Was in the way of being able to get the mindset of, I can do this, right? So, any habit you have of beating yourself up, it's something you have to work through. I felt like I don't know how to work through this. Okay, Ginny, you're a psychologist. You probably do theoretically know, like start working on it. So I studied self-compassion. I worked on self-compassion. Research shows that when we're beating ourselves up, like, oh, you idiot, I can't believe you let this happen again. How did you eat all that crap last night? You said you weren't going to. It makes our brain feel like I'm in danger. I'm in danger. It leads us into anxiety and inhibition. It leads us into tunnel vision. So our brain says, we're in danger. Don't do anything new. Don't try to learn. Just try to survive right now. Just stay on track with all your habits. So our tendency to beat ourselves up actually completely interferes with feeling like I can totally do this. It interferes with learning. It interferes with changing your habits. So however you are going to work through getting some self-compassion, it's important. It's actually important. It's one of the reasons doing journaling during a process like this can help us stay on track. So get into an emotionally positive state of mind. I'm feeling kind of hopeful about this. I'm feeling kind of excited about the colorful, abundant amount of foods I get to eat. I hear that from Slender for Good clients all the time. I'm empowered. I'm making this choice for myself. Get into a determined state of mind. I remember having this sort of kind of attitude that I would bring on, and this kind of, I had a mantra that I was saying, I'm full of potential, right? But I needed to have these positive emotional reflections on myself, this positive emotional state. So BJ Fogg is a researcher who has studied this, and his conclusion is when it comes to changing habits, what people really need is to feel good about the habit that they're doing. So I always think about Annie Grace. Some of you know her and follow her from This Naked Mind, and her experience of deciding I'm going to start exercising. And she went through all these different exercises that she started to do. And if she hated it, she would move on to the next one. Like she bought a Peloton and then she was like, no, I hate this. I can't make myself do this. And she just kept looking for an exercise habit that she would really look forward to and enjoy. Makes sense, right? Same thing with our eating. We really need to find a way to enjoy healthy eating and not get stuck in this poor me. Other people are eating junky stuff and really, really making yummy noises. And here I am eating healthy stuff. I mean, we live in a really disturbed culture that way. So getting to the mindset of I can do it is partly about attaching positive emotion, maybe with some intention to the new habits. I love eating this way. I'm proud of myself eating this way. One of the positive emotional states I got into went with this idea that everything I eat or drink is either helpful to my body, either helps my body or harms my body. And I love to choose the things that help my body, which was very different from the mindset of, I wonder how much of this junky stuff I can get away with. And yeah, not feel too bad about. Another way to get into the mindset of I can do this, plan to devote a certain amount of time and energy to the startup process of doing something new, right? So as I get started with exercise again, it's not just going to accidentally fall into my day. I have to make time in my day for exercise. And when we're changing our eating habits, I might discover I have to go to the grocery store more often than I did. I might discover that it really helps me to do a certain amount of food prep on the weekends so that I don't get run out of things that are healthy to eat during the week, et cetera. We've all done these things when we were dieting before. So it's a matter of putting these things together. One of my brilliant clients from Scotland said, I just had to decide to throw everything at it for a while. And once I did that, it got so easy, right? I'm just going to throw everything at it for a while. Now, one thing we have to manage our brain with is I can't continue to put this kind of energy into things. I'm going to just throw it away. I'm just let it go. No, it's not going to keep taking the same amount of energy that it takes initially. And if you've been dieting, if you've been doing weight loss dieting, you might have this feeling like I'm just going to get hungrier and hungrier and more stressed, because that's what goes with weight loss dieting. It is not what goes with healthy eating. Healthy eating can take some energy, some upfront energy to really get going, but you don't feel more and more stressed and hungry with time. You feel better and better and more energized. So knowing that can help you say, yes, I can do it, because it's going to get easier for one thing. Another thing we can do to know I can do this is anticipate obstacles and plan for them. There's ups and downs to any kind of habit change you're trying to get going as a lifestyle, right? So I started going to Pilates class a year and a half ago or something, and I really liked it. I felt good about it. I was committed to it. And then my teacher started canceling all the classes because she was dealing with a health issue. And then I got stuck again for a long time. So, okay, ups and downs are to be expected. I'm not going to let all the habits go. If I confront ups and downs, I know I've stuck with challenges before in the past that took years and years. Think about going through graduate school. Okay, ups and downs, you're going to have to manage them. It's just part of accomplishing anything big. Getting pregnant, raising a child, raising a puppy. There are so many things we've done in the past where we had to stick through challenges. We had to overcome obstacles. So managing the ups and downs is a huge predictor of whether we can succeed. So when you hit a down point, oh, this is hard. I didn't know I was going to come across this. Oh, what can I learn from this, right? So if I go on a trip and I think, well, I have sort of a vague plan for how I'm going to handle airports, how I'm going to keep healthy eating while I'm traveling. Or I think I'm just going to throw out healthy eating while I'm traveling because I'm just going to go a little bit nuts, but I'll get right back on plan. And then I discover, wow, that was harder than I thought. So thinking about how do I manage the ups and downs? Okay, if I didn't have the skill to manage traveling this time, I'll have another chance to practice those skills. How can I do it differently next time, right? So remind yourself of other hard things or longer process things that you won over. See yourself doing that to know you can do it. Catch yourself doing it. Study James Clear's teachings about habit change. He talks about going through micro evolutions of yourself, right? So it becomes more and more part of your identity. So instead of, I guess I'm just a junk food person, or I guess I just need to have my wine. I'm just a person that needs to have my wine. Little by little, start to see yourself, hey, I'm a person who keeps making healthy eating choices. Maybe this is who I am. Like, let your identity shift toward the habit that you want to live with. So he talks about bad habits being autocatalytic. They feed on themselves, right? So I'm going to have a little of this junky stuff, but no more tomorrow. I'm going to have a little wine today, but then I'm going to stop. And then if you're like me, like, oh, I was going to have a little, but now it's more. I had a little yesterday, but now I'm having more. And then you feel bad. And then, if I just have a little more of that food or drink, I'll feel a little bit better. But it makes us ultimately feel sluggish, distracted, low energy, right? And feel like I'm not someone who can stick with what I say I can stick with. That became the most important motivator for me. I think of myself as a person of integrity. And here I feel like I'm not the one choosing what goes in my mouth, right? I'm not choosing to be healthy consistently. We have to manage the ups and downs. We have to manage the emotional stages of change. As soon as we feel like, oh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, that is just one of the emotional stages of change everyone has to go through. And so how do you support yourself? I always do this self-hug thing. Okay, my primitive brain says, you know what we're going to do is go back to our old habits because those weren't as stressful as this. Well, they were. Like my eating and drinking habits really were stressful, but making changes to my eating and drinking is a different kind of stress that I'm not as used to. So to stick with my healthy eating, I really have to keep working towards, I can do this. I can totally do this. I've done hard things before. I can do hard things. I'm the kind of person who can do hard things. See yourself overcoming challenges. That makes sense? So there's a lot of proof of this. I can only do new habits. I can only establish new habits if I believe I can establish new habits. We need to believe it works. We need to believe it can be done. We need to believe we can do it. Journaling can help you keep moving the needle on these beliefs, right? It's not a matter of just make yourself believe it. How can I believe that 10% more today? So I know I either observe or guide hundreds of people having success implementing a truly healthy eating approach that leads to sustainable weight loss. And what they say about what makes it possible to stick with it long term and make it a lifestyle change that sticks addresses these mindsets. But also it addresses this one practical issue I alluded to earlier, which is our eating plan that works, that's proven effective, is super clear. We can tell when we're doing it, and we can tell when we're not doing it. And this greatly reduces the tendency we have of fooling ourselves. What we find in the research is the more we enjoy eating something, the more we like something, the more we fool ourselves about how much of it we eat or drink, the more we underreport. It's one of the problems with diet research is if you're relying on what people are saying they're eating, it may not be very accurate because we fool ourselves. So getting super clear, eating this exact way produces results, and I am eating this exact way. Having it be so clear is so liberating. It's so freeing. It's so like, I know when I had enough to eat because I know what my quantities are. And when I sit and eat that much, I can feel like, yeah, that was plenty. Now, what the research shows about that is we will eat whatever's in front of us. We will eat and eat and eat and eat, even if there was a weird research study where they gave people soup to eat in research conditions, and they in one group they kept filling it from the bottom. And not only did the people in that research condition keep eating and eating and eating and eating, it was also the case that when they asked how satisfied, how full people felt, there was no difference between the people over here who ate a certain portion and the people over here who ate 60% more. It really helps to be super clear. How much should I be eating? And it turns out to be a lot, but getting super clear. Yes, I had all the quantity of food that I eat. It helps. It really helps if the eating guidelines, the approach makes sense. Like I can see why this is healthy. This is pretty clear. And it supports a healthier attitude toward our body, right? This idea that I started coming up with is instead of how can I eat what I feel like eating, what I enjoy, how can I moderate the things that aren't good for me? I came to this, actually, food is either good for my body or not good for my body, and I can consistently choose what's good for my body. It just started supporting a completely healthier attitude toward my body, a different kind of love and care for my body, which is awesome. Also, having an eating approach that works to produce the results you want and that keeps working day after day, year after year, that makes a really huge difference. And that's not easy to find in this marketplace. And then when you find it also produces a bunch of unanticipated benefits, like people tell me all the time, my mood is a lot better. I'm so much more able to handle stuff that happens during the day without getting irritated or frustrated. So a lot of people comment, this is really improving my mood to eat in this healthy way all the time. Pain and inflammation, like I mentioned, sleep and energy. So when you're not only getting predictable weight loss week after week, but you're also getting all kinds of signs that your body's really happy, it starts to become something you don't want to lose. Like I think this package of benefits is worth defending this way of eating. They don't feel hungry or anxious between meals. That really helps. So that's a big difference between taking an abundance-based healthy eating approach versus a restrictive dieting approach. And they keep building skills and confidence with eating this way, right? In various different kinds of circumstances. And they get out of the habit of looking for opportunities to go back to their old ways and excuses for going back to their old ways. So from a practical perspective, it makes a huge difference to start with a very clear and effective eating approach, especially if it makes sense, especially if it's thoroughly enjoyable, especially if it prevents you from having hunger and cravings. So you got this eating approach that works and you build these mindsets. This can work, it can be done, and I can do it. You want to intentionally pair positive emotion with your new habits to stick with them. And I'm going to also say that there's a couple of big reasons people step off their eating plan. One is it doesn't seem to be working. We addressed that one. Another is when I have uncomfortable emotions, it's my habit to eat to make that feel a little better. So emotional eating is one, and cravings for what I call cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. So the things that cause cravings are something to be really paying attention to. We have this idea in our society that we must keep them in our diet, otherwise we'll really miss them and we'll crave them even more. But what we find is sometimes with some of those things that we're having really an addictive reaction to them. We can't stop once we start. We can't resist them if they're around us. That sounds like addiction. So if we say, you know what, the addictive things, I'm just going to put down for a period of time. I'm going to take them off the table and see if I can just thoroughly enjoy eating highly nutritious things. And people start to say, I just heard this from one person yesterday, actually, the really nutritious food actually tastes so much better than it's ever tasted to me before. I don't know if that's a mindset thing. I don't know if it's a biology thing. I think it's both, but definitely even our taste buds change. Deciding to just take those things off the table for a while and see if it completely changes your life, right? It can really help. And there are these habitual thoughts that take us towards those things that support stepping kind of between these two paths of healthy eating and keeping a little bit of junky stuff, of cravingful, highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. And I'm going to do a whole event on mindsets next week, a challenge. I'm really excited. It has been life-changing for people in the past, but I can go through this litany of thoughts I had. I'm just going to have a little. I'm just going to have a little is a clue that I'm wanting to eat or drink something that isn't healthy. I deserve it. And that started to hurt me. I deserve this thing that's not good for my body. Why do I only say that about things that aren't good for me? I don't think this is going to matter. It's so little, it's not going to matter. That's kind of a strange approach. I mean, it's going to matter to my body. My body's going to do something with it. It may be something that makes me happy, or it may be something that makes me unhappy, like storing excess fat. And another thought was, I can make up for it tomorrow. That's okay. I'm just going to do this today. I know I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do this today, but I can make up for it tomorrow. What does that mean? I can make up for it tomorrow. Where do we get a weird idea like that? It's not appreciating how my body works. They're all kind of a way back to the dark side, especially when all those thoughts are connected to chip nipples, craving for highly processed, non-nutritious food-like substances. We like to call them treats. If it's something I have an addictive reaction to, and it's not good for my health, and even the research suggests it may be toxic to my body and cause a change in my insulin functioning, et cetera, maybe I don't want to be saying those things, right? So if you're like me and many of the women I've helped get the breakthrough to living slender for good, emotional eating and cravings for those non-nutritious food-like substances may be the issues that most often take you off plan. There are ways to overcome those things, right? I know I was in tears a lot over feeling like I don't feel like I can stick with my own intentions for healthy eating. So I want to pose a question to you. What if you could just eat highly nutritious foods every day, every meal, and love it? What if it gave you great results for your health, What if it got you slender again, just quite naturally without hunger or cravings, right? So several of the women I work with just this week were commenting how happy they are to have discovered that choosing to eat an abundance of highly nutritious foods and only highly nutritious foods and being super clear about how much of those foods to eat, they're amazed, but it does not feel restrictive at all. It doesn't like diets have. Not only are they experiencing weight loss week after week, but they're feeling physically better, mentally better, emotionally better. And it's not restrictive, it's very freeing. I love it. I mean, it makes me, I feel so touched about it because it just makes sense. It turns out it just makes sense. It's very different from how we're eating in this society. But think about this. What would it be like if you could just fall in love with eating highly nutritious foods, meal after meal, day after day, if it gave you great results and you didn't miss those non-nutritious food-like substances at all? They just don't belong in your body, they don't belong in your diet, and it's just not hard to put them down and stick with it. I think that's where we're trying to get, and it's really actually not that hard. All right. I hope this was helpful to you. I hope it gave you some ideas. Like, what's one takeaway for you? How would it change your life if you could just eat healthy food every day, thoroughly enjoy it, and not cheat? Like it's only cheating on ourselves, right? What if you just loved it? How would it change everything? All right. I hope that was helpful. Let me know. Share your comments with me, your thoughts, your perspectives. All right. Take care.